Hello, everyone, and welcome to C-Ship's second webinar series edition. Thank you for joining us today and coming in on time. Today's webinar addresses cultural entrepreneurs' financial strategies, and it is titled Cultural Entrepreneurs and Money, a Love and Hate Affair. Before we start, I would like to dedicate a quick moment for housekeeping. We have muted everyone by default, so we won't be disrupted by latecomers. However, when you wish to talk, please click the microphone icon to mute or unmute yourself. Please note that the webinar will be recorded, so feel free to keep your camera on or off. You're welcome to use the chat box throughout. The last 20 minutes is dedicated to questions and answers. I will start the webinar by giving you a brief overview of what C-Ship is. Then I will introduce our three bright speakers. So I will be sharing my screen now. Okay. So C-Ship is an intensive entrepreneurial training program designed for professionals from the cultural and creative industries. It was designed by ISHEC, our business school, in response to COVID-19 crisis under the framework of the United Nations International Year for the Creative Economy and Sustainable Development. It is a training program designed to guide cultural and creative professionals or aspirants towards starting an entrepreneurial journey, ensure the financial viability of their projects, develop and or strengthen their management skills for a sustainable, thriving and resilient project, and maximizing their societal positive impacts. I'm very happy to present our first speaker today. Nathalie Courville is a recognized expert in communications and marketing, also specialized in B2B and B2C partnerships, mainly in the field of culture, tourist attractions, and events, where she has been working for nearly 35 years. She is a consultant to numerous organizations in Quebec and Europe, helping them adapt their business models to new digital realities. She is president of Art Expert Canada and a trainer and associate professor at HEC Montreal Chair in Arts. She also teaches at IHECS Academy in Brussels and at C-Ship. Our second speaker is Fyras Mawazini. Fyras has worked for more than 15 years for international NGOs in various countries in Africa and the Middle East before joining the Drosos Foundation in 2011 as country director Egypt until 2014. He then moved to Drosos Foundation office in Casablanca, where he is in charge of the programs in Morocco and Tunisia, and he became its director since 2016. Thanks to his different assignment, he has been living throughout many countries in Africa and in the MENA region. Until today, this gives him the chance to closely follow the transformation of the civil society throughout an important network of partners. He participates actively in their dynamism and their role as actors of change by accompanying and supporting them with the implementation of development programs that address social challenges. Our third speaker is Reem Kassem, who is the founder of AGORA for Arts and Culture and co-founder of Basita.live. In 2021, Reem was named one of 50 most inspirational women in Egypt in recognition of her innovation in the field, efforts in empowering women, and her role in advancing gender equality. She currently works as head of performing arts at the Cultural Foundation Abu Dhabi. She has 20 years of work experience in the cultural sector that include performing arts, community arts, arts for social community and economic development, cultural policy, and cultural diplomacy. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our three bright speakers and give the floor to you, Nathalie, to start. Thank you very much for joining us and for being with us here today.
Thank you very much, Ruba. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. As you can, well, as you read in the bio, I'm from Canada, originally in Quebec, and but I live in Brussels, and I have a pretty wide experience in Europe, in Canada, but also in Africa. So I'm very pleased to be with my colleagues coming from while working at most in Africa. I'm going to share some slides. Actually, it's only to help me follow my thoughts, and these 15 minutes we're going to spend together are mostly dedicated for me to share some thoughts about what's the best way to work in the cultural business with financial partners. How can you develop some skills or a better attitude within this love and hate relationship, as you said, and I like the title of the conference this way. So let me just a second. Yeah. So here we go. Okay, so love and hate affair. What a title. So as Ruba said, I've been working in the past 35 years in Misnet, sponsoring, co-branding, whatever you call. I've been working with different partners, trying to, well, I should say I worked mostly for 20 years in partnerships and strategic alliances, making strategic alliances with lots of private companies, different organizations, everywhere in Europe, Canada, and all that. These techniques are, well, all have the different ways of working. It's not in 15 minutes that we're going to be able to go over it. But one thing for sure, over the years, people always come to me and have this they're in a hurry to find money, and so they ask me if there is a recipe to make sure that they go fast and make sure that they get the money as fast as they need it. But I'm very sorry to say today that there is no recipe. And I found funny to make this analogy with the with cooking, because I'm a pretty good cook, but even being a good cook, I don't always have the skills to realize the meals I want to provide to my guests. But so having a recipe is always something that helps me to do so. But apparently in sponsorship, it's not the way to do. It's not the way to proceed. So just a few thoughts, as I said, to help you maybe develop a better attitude for working in the financial, well, with financial partners, especially in the private sector. So one thing for sure, seeking for money or seeking for partnerships and working with private partners, private companies, the best way is not to ask money. These people, these companies, have a different objective. They don't have the objective to help cultural businesses. Sorry to say that, but they usually have business objectives, marketing objectives. They have things to achieve. So if you go in the market and ask for money, well, you probably get the answer no, and it must more faster than you would expect. So the first thing I always teach to my students is to change their attitude and start to deliver value. What is value? Well, the value is what works for the people you're proposing something. So changing your attitude is first talking about changing your mind. And so instead of seeking for money in the market, try to understand that you have something to offer, try to understand what has value for these partners or eventual partners you're going to look at, and make sure that you understand this dialogue that has to be provided between you and the eventual partners for your cultural businesses. So it talks about changing the way you think. Makes it like, again, if you change your mind and you don't make yourself like, you don't go for in the market to get money, well, at that moment you're going to start to maybe look at who are these eventual partners I could work with. What do they need? How can I answer or help them achieve their goals? And what are their goals? Well, they have business goals. They have something to achieve. They have commercial objectives. They want to sell products. They want to share their services. They want to make their brand shine in the market. So changing the way you think is making sure that for as a start you start reading the business sections in the different medias. You read about the economics around you, and you understand, you try to understand how your offer, your cultural partnerships, or your cultural the benefits you could provide can help them achieve their own goals. So just remember, again, it's a question of attitude, that most of the partners, most of the sponsors are not there to help you produce your cultural product or your cultural activity. They have things to achieve, and you can offer them some benefits, but at the end, it's sometimes disappointing. But the objective, like the ROI, the return on investment they're going to do, is more important for them than the fact that they're going to help cultural business. So sorry to say that, but that's the reality. So it's also a question of personality. You can stand up and be very be an achiever, such as a leak, or you can remain a potato and stay on your chair and wait for the people to come to you. But by experience, I know that the work that there's a lot of work to make sure that you get the financing you need for your cultural activities. You have to make research. You have to be aware of what's going on in the market. So yes, it's something. It commands some work. It commands some times. It's not an easy thing to do, but make sure that well, I think that to make sure that you get your objectives or you achieve your objectives, you need to spend some time, and especially spend the time on the right things to do. So that's also a question of methodology. Again, in 15 minutes, I will not be able to share you mine, but the methodology is making sure that you don't just run into the market and say, okay, I'm going to ask these partners and these companies because they have money. That's not the way to do it. So the best way to do it is, of course, first, make research. Second, make sure that you identify in the market the right eventual partners you can be working with. And what is a good partner for your business? Well, you have to look at what you have to offer and what they need. So to make sure that you're going to be able to make a connection, you have to analyze the market, analyze the needs of these eventual partners, and make sure that the benefits or advantages that you're going to be able to provide could fit and meet their objectives. So having methodology, taking time to make research, to read, to look into the market, to analyze what's going on, is all that time that you gain instead of like just running and go to meetings. I had a client like that who was counting the number of meetings I had per week to make sure that I was doing my job. But I was telling her I better have 1 or 2 meetings by week in the week, but making sure that these meetings could be really helpful for achieving my goals. So making researches is, again, one of the things that are very important. Researches are, for me, like go on Google, read about the company, go in the newspapers, read about what's going on, make sure that you are aware of the trends and the big about the let's say that the tendance, what the trends in the environment. So, and prepare the work. Just don't go for meetings, but prepare the work and make sure that you have in mind all the things that has to be that could be interesting for the company, for the partner you're meeting, and not only another thing I always say is well, just to illustrate how you have to change your mind, the meeting, the first meeting you have with an eventual partner, for example, is not about the artistic direction of your company or the show that you're going to provide later on. It's all about what you can offer. So you have to be focused on the partner objective, on the partner commercial goals, business goals, and this is really the meaning you're going to have. So sorry to say, but you're not going to talk about the artistic project, but you're going to have a marketing discussion with these people. So that's why you have to make research prior to that meeting to make sure that you know what that brand talks about, what is their DNA, what they're looking for, what are the new things that they have to provide, new services, new products, whatever. So the more you're going to be a specialist of their brand, the more interesting you're going to be in their thinking, in their business goals, the more interesting will be the conversation, because at the end, you will be able to give answers and to help them achieve some goals, providing some advantages in the relationship. It's also a question of network, of course. It's not really about the who knows who, but more about developing your network. You know, I came to Brussels a few years ago, and as a Canadian, I had no network in the in the environment, but I had to build it. In that sense, LinkedIn is really your best friend. It is mine, actually, and LinkedIn is like just a tool that helps a lot to develop your network, your own network. But don't forget that you have the network. I'm sorry, of the management of your organization, the board you're working with. All those people are so many people that can be making connections with other people. So because of course looking for sponsors or partners needs, well, commands that you have meetings with the right people. So having the making to be able to meet the right person, you need to make your network work for you and make sure that you eventually have the connection and the possibility to meet with the right person. So having these things said, if you follow my mind, doing business with different financial partners, working with private funding, is not the result of chance, but the result, whoops, sorry, I missed my animation. It's not a result of chance, but the result of change, a change of your mind, a change of attitude. And if you're aiming to develop these revenues and to develop these the private contributions, well, for me, in a resume, it's the your capacity of developing the commercial thinking. Uh, don't be afraid. Commercial thinking is not becoming commercial and transforming the cultural business into something else. It's just being able to understand that working with financial partners or private partners means that you are building a commercial relationship based on your marketing, and you accept that these partners will be coming into your communication and marketing uh, um, networks, channels, to talk together with yourself, with your brand, talk with your public, with your own consumers. Oops. Uh, so important to make sure that you keep in mind that that for being performant in private funding, you have to provide benefits that have value for the partners. And don't forget ever that, voyons, sorry, j'ai de la difficulté. Ah, don't forget that the logo visibility is over and has limits. We all know that. Everyone, for example, knows ING. It's not because you have 32 ING logos near the football match that you're going to be becoming a new customer of ING. So ING has to and they do it very well actually. That's why I'm talking about ING. But the logo is as a limit because it doesn't say very much. So to make sure that you have a good proposal for the private partners, you have to help them make their logo talk to the people, and that goes through activation. That's possible through activation and co-branding. So that's why I love very much co-branding. I have an example here of something that I did with the Montreux Comédie Festival, which is one of the most important comedy festival in Europe. And we did that little pre-roll that was broadcast on YouTube, on the YouTube channel of Montreux Comédie. And it's a co-branding video that was actually the presence for what's called Swissquote Bank. So this video was the way Swissquote Bank was presenting himself to the Montreux Comedy community. So let's just listen to it. It's a 30 seconds. Go for it.
6 000 francs dans ta poche tout de suite et sans effort. À moins que tu préfères ta petite vie misérable, mais pas avec moi. Ce billet sera investi dans les startups du marketplace Inuit. Mais pour cela, rien de plus simple. Envoie-moi l'argent sur mon compte. Oh non. 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 Maman va me tuer. 6 000 francs dans ta poche tout de suite.
Oops. Sorry, I didn't realize it was in French. Hope it's well. Anyway, you understand that it's a funny thing. You have this comedian who's pretty well known in Switzerland, but he's just making jokes about anyway the some trading facilities that we're talking about. But this capacity of the Swissquote Bank to create and to co-create this video was for them a very, very interesting way of being perceived or being seen as a forward-thinking bank, which they are, and especially against a young public, which was very interested in that kind of video. So in resume, make sure if you want to become performant, there are different things. I made a couple of jokes at the beginning, comparing the process with the recipe, or not a recipe, but with different things. But in final, the thing very important to remind is to understand your market, make research, do some research to make sure that first you understand the motivations of the eventual partners you could work with. Make sure that you understand the market and find the opportunities by reading what's going on, by looking, by keeping yourself aware of what's going on in the environment. Make sure that you identify also members in the business community around you, around your event, around yourself, around your board. Make sure that you connect with the right people. Never forget that even if it's a marketing process, you need to have creativity. If we say that all brands have a DNA, well, the way you can help them represent themselves in your environment needs to be creative, needs to be unique. So make sure that you provide enough creativity in the proposals that you share, that you provide to the partners. And never forget that yes, it's work. Yes, it needs methodology. It takes time. It takes time, and it's demanding. But never forget that it's a H2H business, meaning that they are B2C, B2B approaches, but H2H is human to human, means that it's a human business. You have to talk to people, you have to understand, and in final, you're going to make the deal with someone that understands and agrees on the proposal that you're offering. So that's basically the the words I wanted to share with you. So I'm going to stop the presentation. Here we go. Voila.
Thank you very much, Natalie. This was actually very inspiring. You started in a funny way, speaking about non-existing recipes. Actually, there's no one size fits all. You invited cultural entrepreneurs to change their attitude and mentality by delivering value and talking, discussing, and empathizing with corporate. You tried, nonetheless, to provide a kind of recipe of what tips you need to incorporate in this tailor-made recipe by trying to work on your personality, not a potato, indeed, to have a methodology, to research, to network, and in a nutshell, to have an entrepreneurial approach. Firas, I would like to turn the ball to your camp now and ask you about your own experience, since you will be sharing some lessons learned from your own experience on why it is important to invest in the cultural sector.
Great. Thanks a lot, Ruba, for the invitation and for giving me a chance to participate in such a webinar. This is really a beautiful moment. I like the title, and I think it's the question of being a love and a hate affair is definitely the right question. And I'm wondering if there's other way to ask the questions. Anyway, as you said in the introduction, I have lived in a lot of countries in the MENA region for the past 25 years. And I always looked at what culture and creative industries could play as a role in the change of the societies. So what I'm going to share with you is definitely just elements of reflections, of observations, and lessons learned of discussions I had with different partners working in that sector, and of researchers also, and having also the chance to observe over a long time, over a long period, the changes that are happening. The foundation I work with for the past 11 years has also decided to invest a certain support in that sector for different reasons. And that's also some of the elements that I'm presenting you today. But I also want to look at the dark side of it. So at the end, I will also bring some elements on the dark side level. So to start with the good, with the inspiring elements and important elements, why we invest in the cultural and creative industries in this specific sector. When we look at it, for the past 10 years, it's definitely a very fast-growing sector. It's if you look at the different subsectors, such as the audiovisual and filmmaking arts sector, it's incredible to see the increase in terms of the offers that you have through the video on demand platforms whatsoever. If you look at the performing arts sector, it's also quite an important increase in terms of the type of opportunities that it could provide also for youth development within that specific sector. So it's a fast-growing sector in terms of economy. I mean, recently, just before the COVID, the World Bank published a report showing that the cultural and creative industries are representing up to 7% of the global GDP in the world, and up to 10% in the MENA region. So it's a sector that is very dynamic economically speaking. The second element is that being such a growing sector, it has certain potential for job opportunities for youth. And this is what we're trying to look at the level where I'm from at the Drosos Foundation, is to give a chance for youth to find a sector that is will let them be empowered economically. So this is one of the reasons why we look at this sector as a potential sector for youth employment. And it's really interesting because it's a sector that is a cross-sectoral one. You will find in the other sectors a bit what Nathalie also presented through her presentations. You will always need creativity in other sectors. So youth who are, I would say, trained and cultural entrepreneurs can definitely also have an option of finding good economic opportunities within the other sectors with their background as cultural entrepreneurs. It is the sector today also that employs the biggest number of young people at the global level, and the same when we take it to the regional MENA level. Then, on the social utility side, it is also a sector that, differently from the others, it has quite a potential to improve, and to produce social value. And I think this is really important. It's a sector, and I will show you some example at the end, that can definitely bring and address social, that can definitely address social challenges. It has also this capacity to change the mentalities. It has this very, I would say, positive vibes, inspiration. It is definitely a sector that is clearly and can be clearly used for inspiring others and definitely do some awareness on some of the social challenges that the world is facing at the moment. The same for the climate change. Some of the best awareness issues I've seen on the climate change were done by theater troops. So it's definitely a sector that is that has something to say on that. It is also a sector that is very well connected and that is somehow the locomotive of the digital sector. There is definitely a beautiful combination between the digital industries and the cultural and creative industries. One of the examples is the gaming industry. It's incredible to see how the gaming industry is in search of people with the creative backgrounds and cultural backgrounds. Then if you look at the youth, it's a very attractive sector for the youth. It's really motivating them. When we talk to the youth within our projects, they're kind of fed up that we present them, especially for what we call the need, neither in employment, education, or training. So the youth that have dropped out from school at the age of 14, 15, and that are not really much in anything that could help them to choose a path in their life. It's a sector that is very attractive for them. They feel that there is a potential to acquire competences within a short time that give them a chance to develop their economic autonomy. And so it is quite attractive for the youth. And it's also a sector that is within their time. They use digital and yes, every day. So it's a sector that speaks to them quite easily. It is also a sector that is in need of support for the emerging artists. The emerging artists are definitely in need of support, also because by supporting the emerging artists, we are somehow widening the artistic and cultural offers. And it's quite important to give a chance for huge diversity and access to culture for everyone. So it's also in this sense quite an important sector. It is today a sector that is carried out also, that the civil society organizations are working on. And I feel it's really important to see that how civil society organizations are proposing for social challenges good solutions through culture. Not to name some of the partners, but some of the motto that you will hear is culture is the solution. So, but definitely culture is a solution to some of the problems that the youth are facing within our region in the MENA I'm talking here. I said it's a sector that has this very positive vibe. Now, if you look at the dark side, it is at the same time a sector that is hiding a certain invisibility. There's a lot of people within that sector that are not visible and that are really suffering. It's very often low-paid salaries to a certain level, especially when we look at the technicians within that sector. If you look also at the emerging artists, it takes quite some time to reach a level that is giving a chance to be economically independent. So it definitely is a sector for that reason, that needs support over a long period. It's not something that you support for an event or for an activity. It's a sector that needs a long-term period to be definitely supported over a certain time that will bring you the effects and the impact expected on the youth development. But it's also a sector that has a certain ambiguity in terms of, it's quite imprevisible sometimes. There is a kind of a complex relation between the societies you are living in and the type of activities that this sector is giving. For example, I'm just taking the example in Morocco of the sheikhat. You know, sheikhat are the artists that you will see in all the cabaret, in all the wedding parties, and everyone is asking for the sheikhat to come and to participate and to offer an artistic productions. But at the same time, the society look at it in a way like it's quite on the edge, and it questions the traditions, it questions the religious aspect, etc. So it's a sector that is, to a certain extent, quite fragile in that sense. It can be very quickly put on the side. And so we have also seen some examples where, because this sector is highlighting a certain social issue, then the authorities might react not in the perfect way. All in all, it's definitely also a sector I would like to end with a very positive note. It's a sector that is really important in terms of peace building I would say at the community level. I mean, when you want to run some national discussions between different groups, and culture is definitely a sector that brings people together around the table and that can be able to discuss very intrinsic issues or very problematic elements within their lives. And I will just to maybe end on that before showing you a few of the pages. Ruba, I just want to share my screen for 2 minutes. But if you look at it, the way UNESCO was created, and maybe here I'll show you my screen because this I put this slide on the UNESCO page. The constitution of the UNESCO was based on that sentence. Since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed. And what better than culture and education to definitely build this peace mindsets within the people, to change the mentality. So it has this potential for changing the mentalities, and I think it's really important. We have seen it through the past 10 years in the different projects we're supporting at the foundation level, the transformation of the youth that were participants within the project. Here I just opened a few pages of the different festivals, events that some of the partners. It's a sector that throughout the entire year you will see festivals and events happening. And the participation of the youth within that events and festivals is just growing, and definitely they find within that sector certain, I would say, answer to the questions they have about their societies. So that one was, for example, Olive au Coeur. That's a festival in Fes. And it was just created 2 years ago. I think it's the 2nd edition, but it's already mentioned in the tourist guides that this is a festival not to miss if you're visiting Fes, for example. And it's joining the culinary arts and the arts, scene performance arts. So it's an excellent festival if you pass by. Then there was a festival that was last week, the festival Handy Film. So you see how it plays a role in terms of social utility. Handy Film is a festival where we put the light on disability issues. And so it's definitely giving a chance to address some of the challenges that people with disabilities are facing within their day-to-day life, and more than that. So such a festivals is used definitely to address that element. It's also a festival that gives a chance for people with disability to be producers of movies and cultural productions to address their problems. Then during these weeks we have this Tanger Interzone Festival. I don't know if you know the story about the Interzone in Tanger, but that's a very tricky one. And it's a film festival, and that is also supported then by Drosos. And it's really interesting because it addresses some of the most difficult questions to discuss, such as sometimes drugs, sometimes sexual relations, sometimes minorities issues, religions. All those mix are within this Tanger Interzone Festival. We have also a partner in Tanger that is called Live Room, and Live Room keeps on regular events for the youth, and it can be events definitely. I mean, it's the essence of Live Room is to believe that live moments are creating something different, and so in all the events they have, you will see a lot of youth participating in it, and like the Urban Art Week Festival. So they give a chance for all type of arts to find a way of expression within the city. We have also this very well-known festival in the region called the Dream City Festival in Tunisia. That's a I would say that's also quite a festival, multidisciplinary one that give a chance during 10 days in Tunis to change your look at the society. And they bring artists from the entire MENA region and Africa, but also from different. It's definitely they work with the communities. So you cannot have the festival work with the artists and not prepare in advance with the communities. So you see this variety, and I think this is definitely a sector we need to invest for these two. Just to conclude it, potential for social change is huge, and potential for economic growth is more and more important and very attractive to use. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fyras, for this inspiring presentation, actually, by talking us through the interest of Drosos Foundation, the growing interest of your foundation in investing in the cultural and creative sectors. So you started by explaining why you're interested in investing in the MENA region, specifically because it's a growing sector, because there's a growing job opportunity, especially for the youth. There is a high potential of producing social value. The sector is raising awareness both on societal but also environmental issues, and it speaks very easily to youth and engages with the digital environment. You also highlighted the importance of the fact that you're investing in the sector because of supporting the emerging artists. At the same time, you highlighted the hindrance of the invisibility of emerging artists and the precarious conditions of artists in general, and the ambiguity and fragility of the sectors in the MENA region. Reem, since you come from the same region, could you tell us a little bit about your own experience as an entrepreneur and how you manage to attract public but also private funding for your enterprises?
Hi. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be with you today. And as you have heard from my biography, I have several backgrounds. I am the founder of AGORA, which is a cultural enterprise based in Egypt, but also I'm the co-founder of Basita.live, which is a digital platform that is basically based virtually or globally. So I will start by talking a little bit more about AGORA, then about Basita, and I will take you throughout my through my entrepreneurial journey. We founded Agora in 2011, and it was founded at a very critical moment in the history of Egypt, if you are all familiar with the events that happened in 2011. And Agora is a Greek word that means the open space of gathering. And it was founded because with the objective of reviving the spirit of the ancient Agora. So to organize public space events, public space festivals, and to revive the spirit of the ancient Agora. So the decision to inaugurate Agora was very spontaneous, and it came from the need of the society at that time, from the events that were happening in 2011. But then, after founding Agora and starting and kicking off the first festival, I started putting a strategy in place. And at that time, the creative industries in Egypt and the sector was like a sponge. It was open for new models, new methodologies, and trying out new things. So at that time, I took the decision to register Agora as a company, not as an NGO, and to start finding a balance between grants from foreign institutions, but also support from the private sector. And I was an advocate at that time for cross-sectoral collaboration. I wanted so much to find a formula between the private sector, the government sector, and the media. I wanted to find a formula that would work well to have a collaboration between the three sectors. So the first thing I started doing after establishing as a company, I started talking to different entities, of which British Council was one of the entities, Goethe Institute, and trying to explain to them that the region and Egypt has a different is going through different events at the moment, and that in order to support arts and sector, arts and culture, they have to be open to work with companies, not necessarily NGOs or entities that are registered for not-for-profit. And that succeeded because I was not the only actor at that time trying to fulfill this objective, but there were other entities at the same time registering as companies and trying to lobby for the same objective. And then after 2 or 3 years from this working on this mission, I started working with the private sector. I worked with entities like Vodafone, like Pepsi, like Coca-Cola, so that they can support artists and they can support our institution, and we can have some activities that can generate income so that we can use this income to fund activities that cannot generate income. And we created a cycle. For a period of from 2011 until 2016, 5 years, we have worked within this cycle, a cycle of organizing a mixture of for-profit activities and non-profit activities, and channeling the income inside Agora to cover from the profit activities to cover the non-profit activities. And that actually worked really very well. We started also working with artists and some beneficiaries who are not necessarily artists but from the community, on how they can also use arts for economic development. And we created a program that is until now sustainable, Arts for Economic Development. We worked with young women from regions, disadvantaged communities in Egypt, and that program specifically was funded by Prince Claus Fund. And that program inspired me to start my PhD at the moment. So the topic of my PhD at the moment is inspired by this program that at that time was funded by Prince Claus Fund. This methodology of work continued for several years until the COVID came, and I can always say that during crisis I am at my best at my highest level of creativity when there is a crisis. So I can always find this, some hope in the crisis. So during the revolution, I founded Agora, and during COVID, I founded Basita. And because I was always interested in this, in the financial sustainability of the cultural sector since the time of the revolution and the time of doubts, will we still have foreign funding? Will the foreign funding stop? Will we have restrictions or not? I was always concerned about the sector and how it can be sustainable financially. So from this idea, when COVID came and I witnessed how artists and cultural institutions started giving up their content online for free, I saw, as much as this was really a good moment for the world to recognize the impact, the real impact of arts and culture on humanity or on human beings, I saw a big threat in that. Because we have been spending so many years trying to cultivate the public or to lobby for the impact of arts and culture, and telling everyone arts and culture deserve the same financial support that the mainstream content gets. With the COVID and with arts institutions and artists putting their content online for free, I saw that threat that everything that we tried to do is now going to be deleted or going to be replicated with this new wave of putting everything online for free. And from this fear of losing everything that we tried to build, I thought about Basita, and I thought about the model for Basita to become an online platform that helps artists to become self-sustained financially from sharing their online content. So we started then working on Basita, and the model, the financial model of Basita is a model that I have also tested for several years in my work at the Library of Alexandria, which is the ticket share. So back before Agora, I used to be the head of performing arts at the Library of Alexandria in Egypt, and the library had a golden age of sufficient funding, and we were privileged with good funding opportunities. But there was a time when there was an economic crisis and the funding was cut. This is where we had to be very creative in finding alternative funding models. And at that time, I put in place a system for our concerts and our events to have a revenue share model with the artists. So if we don't have enough funding to pay the artist ticket a fee, we got the income from the tickets and worked hard on cultivating and developing the audiences so that we can have enough income from tickets to pay the artist and cover the expenses. And this model worked. At the beginning, of course, it was challenging. We worked a lot on marketing, but until now, until that day, the Library of Alexandria is following that model. And from that model, also other venues like Al Sawi Cultural Wheel in Cairo and other venues got inspired for their revenue share model. So from that model, I also created the business plan or the business model of Basita, the revenue share, exactly the same numbers, 27%, 75% and 25%. So with Basita now, we allow the artists to share their content online and get 75% of ticket revenue, and the platform gets 25% to cover its costs. Well, now after nearly a year and a half or 2 years of working on online events and using Basita, I can say that this model is not 100% successful, because after trying a trial and error several times, we discovered that this 25% is not enough to cover the expenses that we pay on behalf of every user on the platform or every artist or every institution, because we pay per view, we pay so many subscriptions per view. However, because we're very fortunate to have a grant now from the Drosos Foundation, we are able to cover those expenses. But we are planning to develop this business model in 2023 into a slightly bigger percentage for the platform, which might be 30 versus 70. 70 for the artist, 30 for the platform. So we are able to become also by our turn self-sustained financially. So that's our recipe. It was since Nathalie has spoken about recipes. That's our recipe. It was developed by coincidence. We were not planning to develop this recipe as is now. However, because of my background working in public sector at an institution that was well funded, and then this institution was hit with a severe budget cut, and we were fortunate to be a team who were allowed to try so many formulas, and then taking this formula and implementing it into an entrepreneurial approach. I was very fortunate to try that at the beginning at the library, and then now implemented with Basita. And also with AGORA, also I was fortunate because at that time the political situation or the events that happened in the country allowed us all as cultural operators to be able to try new models, to be the first ones to register as companies and be the first ones to get a grant from the British Council as a company, or from the Prince Claus Fund as a company, and lead the way for other younger cultural operators or artists to replicate the model. This model is now the model in Egypt now. No one is registering as NGO, or no one is working in the civil society as non-profit. And just also one of my final remarks about our experience, we started also with the support of the Drosos Foundation a fellowship to teach artists and performing artists in specific, but also entrepreneurial projects in performing arts, how to come up with such models and the skills that they need to become self-sustained financially eventually in the future. But those skills are not only fundraising skills or how to write a grant application, but also how to build their image, their institutional image, how to programmatically market their content, but also institutionally market their business or their identity as artists or institutions. And we just culminated this fellowship. It's ending this month, and we will be, inshallah, discussing round 2 based on the results of round 1.
Wow, thank you very much, Reem. This is fantastic. Thank you for sharing with us your entrepreneurial journey, which is triggered by crisis. You're someone who becomes even more agile, even more creative during crisis. Your first company was founded during the Egyptian Revolution in 2011, and the second one during COVID. It needed a lot of courage, actually, to launch such an initiative, first of all, but also being a woman and leading an enterprise in the Arab region is not an easy task. So congratulations for these great achievements. Actually, you shared with us a lot of entrepreneurial elements by mixing models of profit and non-profit, developing models based on error and trial. For example, the ticketing model, how you are now in enlarging your share of the revenues, and how you are providing professional training for artists and previously also for communities to become more entrepreneurial for the inclusive development of the territory. I would like to leave the floor now for questions. So if anyone in the public is willing to raise a question to one of our bright speakers, please feel free to type it in the chat box or to unmute yourself and raise the question. This applies also to the three of you. So Nathalie, Fyras, Reem, if you have questions to exchange or comments please feel free to do so. I see Anne-Christine. Yes, Anne-Christine.
Bonjour, hello everybody. Hello Nathalie again, Reem, Nathalie, all three of you were very inspiring. Fyras, you so helpfully brought to light some notions about the cultural sector that had been percolating in the back of my mind, but thank you for articulating them and bringing them to the light speed so I can stop cogitating on it and have it just be out there in the open. So helpful. And Reem and Nathalie, what you both remind me is how what we're doing, this entrepreneurship in culture dans la culture, is a creative exercise. And I think a lot of us have a background in arts making. And some of us, maybe me, feel that in embarking on this cultural entrepreneurship journey, I spend less and less time in my studio, and that has been frustrating. But your comments and your methodology, Nathalie, remind me that there is real creativity in what we do here too as entrepreneurs. The constraints are very different, but it's that same problem solving. It's that same letting your mind go wide and then narrow, wide and narrow to get to a solution. So it's not so much a question as it is a comment, and to thank you for making me see that what we're doing here has a real place in the artistic and cultural sector.
Thank you very much, Anne-Christine. This is a great contribution, actually, and an interesting reflection. I wonder if anyone from the speakers would like to rebound or reiterate. Yes, Nathalie.
Well, I had a question for Reem, actually, because I'm very, very interesting into the models you developed. And but just for my understanding in Egypt, when you have a show, for example, at the beginning, was it all the revenues of all the ticket revenues were going to the artists, and that's why you afterwards thought of a revenue share model? Because I'm just, it depends of every country, you know, so it's not the same in Canada or in different countries I work in Europe. So just from my understanding at the beginning, when you were producing a show, don't remember if it was in Alexandria or with the AGORA, but in that model, what was the previous model that you had to adapt once you had this financial crisis?
Yeah, so the very first model was full funding from the library. So the library had a budget, and we used to program artists, and we used to pay the artist a fixed fee. So the artist comes and says, "This is my fee." So whatever number of tickets we sell, the artist gets a fixed fee, and the library gets the full ticket revenue. But also at that time, the library was still a new entity. And yes, Alexandria is a city where people are used to going to concerts, etc. But still, it was maybe the second venue in Alexandria at that time when the library opened, and then some other venues started opening after. So still, it needed lots of audience development until now the library sells out performances, because also the theater is 1,600 seats. It's not a small theater. So this was the first model, but then the second model was there's no fixed fee for the artist. So the artist basically takes the risk with the library of how many tickets will be sold. They get 75% of ticket revenue, whether it sells 10 tickets, 100 tickets, or 1,000 tickets, or sells out. So artists, I can tell you a name of a band that at that time used to sell 8 tickets. I remember, because I was actually managing also that band. 8 tickets. Now this band sells out 2 performances on the same day. 1,600 tickets times 2 on the same day. And they actually get very, very good income, because the library doesn't pay the fixed fee. It it comes from the audiences, and the library gets also good income on that day.
Thank you very much. That's clear, much clearer. Thank you. It makes me think about the other concept of pay what you want. You know, it's but it's a little bit different. But it could have you could have thought of that model as well. But I like very much what you did, and I'm very happy that the artists were willing to go into that solution. So congratulations for that.
Yeah, also it had this model. I noticed that it had a very good impact on marketing as well, because at the beginning, the library was the only, the employees at the library were the ones who were marketing the performance, and they not necessarily every time they know the right target group to go to. And also at that time, Facebook was still new, or maybe also it was before Facebook, before the social media. So the library used to follow the traditional ways of marketing events by sending out newsletters in the post, by hanging posters in cafeterias and beside the universities. But when the artists were involved, because they are sharing the revenues, they came up with innovative ways of marketing the performance and reaching out to young people and communities that they know like their music. So that helped also the audience development effort.
And they embark their own community as well at the same time.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Good. Well, good story. Thank you very much for sharing that, Reem.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Reem. Actually, you're providing us with a lot of food for thought. I was wondering if there are additional questions. There's a question before we wave goodbye. A postgraduate student who is studying cultural policy. I have a question for Reem. Do you think job environment of cultural entrepreneurs affects the outcome of your cultural business? Do you think job environment of cultural entrepreneurs affects the outcome?
I'm not sure I get the question.
The question. Not me, neither me. Do you think job environment affects the outcome of your cultural business?
Oh, job environment of entrepreneurs affect the outcomes. Well, the job environment of entrepreneurs is by nature very stressful. There are so many articles about how the stress that entrepreneurs face in their life and the nightmares and the anxiety attacks. I don't think that affects the outcomes. I don't think that the environment affects the outcomes.
Yes,
Because,
in your case, it made you more resilient, actually.
yeah, exactly. Because in the environment in Egypt in 2011, you have no ideas what I went through and how many investigations I went to and how many times I got stuck in police stations, for example, because a festival got cancelled and I wanted to do a document. It was very stressful, and yet we managed to achieve great outcomes. So it may depend on the person. Some people might be very fragile and stress can affect them. But some other people, stress gives them power and gives them more motivation to continue.
Thank you, Reem. I see another question from Huda, who is asking about the recipe to attract more funding, be it private, public, or international, to the MENA region. Huda, actually, Nathalie spoke about non-existing recipes. So
There are many recipes, actually, many ways of doing it, and inventing recipes, as Reem said, just did. It's probably just the best thing to keep in mind. But I'll let her answer.
But I can also add something to this answer.
yeah, please.
Look, Huda, this is a really good comment, and I fully agree with your state here. We're trying to show, for example, from our side, to attract also other foundations or the donors, and believe me, it works in a way that when we look at the young people who are really attracted by the sector and believe that there is a chance for them to be economically independent, then it attracts the others. When you show somehow the economic opportunities that exist within that sector, and the combination of that sectors with other growing sectors such as the digital one, then it attracts investors and donors. So it's just a question of time. But in the MENA region, it definitely became one of the sectors to that is attractive. I mean, the EU are today funding programs on the cultural and creative industries. And other, I mean, not just the EU, but other also public institutions, whereas it's from the United States or Europe, and also private foundations are more and more looking at that.
I can also add one thing to that as well, which is consistency. I noticed throughout the 20 years of work in the cultural sector that consistency is really a magical word. So when a donor or when any institution sees how consistent you really are and how committed to your mission and vision, and also how clear you are about your mission and vision, that really attracts them. But also one very important thing that some entrepreneurs, they forget to really tackle or work on, which is finding evidence to the impact and communicating this evidence. So when you see a change that you are achieving with your work, you need to communicate it efficiently so that donors and other sectors, they can see the real impact of arts and culture, and then they will be interested to support you further.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Reem and Fyras and Nathalie, for adding this up. I think this last contribution was very interesting to Huda, but also to all the participants of the webinar. So thank you very much for inspiring us today, and for the not only excellent presentations, but also concrete examples you provided us with. Before waving goodbye, I would like to inform you that our third webinar, which is co-organized with Artisans of Innovation and titled Art and Corporate World as Drivers of Reciprocal Mindset Challenge, will take place on Thursday, 19 January, same time, so 4 to 5:15 Central European Time. I would like to thank my colleague Laure Maric. Thank you, Laure, very much for organizing everything. And just one final remark, you will receive a request to evaluate the webinar. Please do. And if you wish to rewatch it, it will be available next week on LinkedIn. Thank you very much for being here today, and we look forward to welcoming you soon again. Thank you
very much
and goodbye. Take
Thank
care.
you, Ruba. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Let's see you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.